Okay, so I'm just gonna be looking back and forth because my laptop is over here, so I do have to read the questions in order for me to answer them. The first question is the reflection on the article. I really found the article interesting. I did read it multiple times at first until I noticed that the author is trying to convince us that the Nakirema culture or society, it's a native society where we don't relate to it at all. After reading it multiple times, I noticed that the author is speaking about the American culture, which is very, very related to what he was saying because it is the American culture and none different. Um, my reaction to the article was very interesting. After I started reading it multiple times, I started noticing some very interesting stuff, such as the hospital, which they named it a whole different thing, the nurses, the way men shave their beards, the way women go to salons and fix their hair. So it made it very interesting to read, and I was very, very into it because I really was thinking that I was learning about another culture, without me knowing that I was actually just learning the American culture. Um, the biggest practice that I paid attention to, since I come from the Middle East, there's a practice that we make sure our kids are always into religion. I am a Christian. My parents have always taught me to be into religion, have my values and my worldview at all times, just so I know what to do in life and the decisions I make. Even for the Muslim majority in the Middle East, every parent, parents in general, would try to teach their kids how to become a person with values. It doesn't matter if you're a male or a female, and how you should follow your worldview at all times in order for the worldview to help you make decisions in life, no matter how difficult those decisions are going to be. Now, this practice is related to the US because I do know a lot of people personally that have grown up in religious homes. Religious homes have been a thing for ages. And to be honest, I don't really know the full history about the practice or where it started exactly. But I know that there's a lot of people here that even teach their kids to be religious, always go to church, just for the same exact reason, which is having your religious values and your worldview to help you in life and make sure that you are on the correct path as the worldview teaches you. Um, this specific ritual or practice have changed throughout history. The reason for that is because science now is becoming a big thing, which means technology is advancing. Um, and there's different decisions. Some people now do not believe in worldview just because there's some things that they find personally that they don't make sense, which means they turn to science and science explains them, which allows them to go with science and makes them question that specific worldview. And now, since we have a newer generation that is very hooked to technology, for example, my nephew, I have my cousins who are hooked to technology, just allows them to look at bigger pictures and makes them turn to technology more than they turn into worldview, which is how we were taught, was to turn to God at all times when we are in need. And even when we're not in need, we still turn to God just to make sure we get the proper path and the proper way to go in life. Um, the way the pattern and the practice has changed is because now people just don't have the time. For example, I work a lot, so I barely have time to go to church, even though my mom and my dad always advise me to go to church and try to find time. But I really work 7 days, 19 hours 19 hours a day, something around there. So I barely have the time to go to church because by the time I get off of work, church is closed and I don't have any days off. Um, these type of things have changed during history because now even the newer generations are becoming more dependent into themselves, which means they don't listen to their parents as much as we used to listen to our parents. Now kids tend to talk back. Kids tend to argue with their parents. Tend to make their own decisions, even though they are at a younger age, which allowed this specific practice to change drastically throughout history in the Middle East and in the United States. Um, I believe the change has its pros and has its cons. I like to always go with the pros first. The pros is that it allows our kids and our future generations to depend more on themselves. I notice a lot of kids my age right now who are around the beginning of their 20s to late 20s, they have no dependency on themselves and they always have dependency on their parents. I personally still have a friend that calls his mom to schedule a dentist appointment for him, which is, to me, is very weird. But again, that's what dependency on your parents would end up being like with age. So I believe with kids being able to depend on themselves right now, where they don't have to ask their parents for a lot of things, it makes it easier for the parents at some point. And then at the other point, they are very dependent and they can make decisions at a young age, even though they're not where you want them to be at age, they are there mentally. Um, the biggest thing that when it comes to cons is the fact that we are drifting away from religion. We are drifting away from religious values and religious decisions. As we grew up, we always put religion first when it comes to making a choice. That's just the way our parents taught us. That's how our parents were taught, is that at all time there's values. You don't make decisions off what you want to do, but it's off the religion and how the religion is guiding you. For example, making money, there's a lot of ways that you are able to make money, but the religion does not allow us to do that specific job or that specific part to make us that amount of money. But people that do depend on science, they don't care about religion, do make that decision and they do that job, even though it impacts their values and their religious views, which makes it very difficult in life right now. And a lot of people, the older generations, are judging the younger generations. And I believe just really due to that is because there is not a lot of values. And it's just borderline different from the older generations to the younger generations. My biggest citation that I really used when it comes to these type of information is from a book. It is actually called The Teen Life in the Middle East, and it is by Ali Mahdi, or full name is Ali Akbar Mahdi, which is a sociology professor at California State University in Northridge. The reason why I use that specific book is because Ali has dedicated most of his life making research and creating data to see how the Middle Eastern teen lives compared to the United States teen and how they live. And it just shows the differences and the similarities that they have both as they are growing up and how it has changed throughout time and throughout history. And I use that book just due to the fact that I believe the author is very credible, and he did come from the Middle East, so he does have a point of view from the Middle East, just so he can understand how it is in the Middle East and how it is in the United States currently, where he is residing and he is living. So I use that book as a specific source for me to use throughout these questions and answering these questions. In general, I believe the article that we did have to read was very interesting. And then I also found a lot of similarities and differences that we share as a Middle Eastern community and as the United States communities. And I find beauty in both of those. So great project in general. Thank you.